Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and we're back after a month hiatus with the 5'1" of the world, Jill Ciminillo.
Hello. I think I need you to work on the jingle for my name. I keep talking about how I'm going to come up with a jingle for, Ciminillo. And you always like sing my name. And so, maybe I'm going to task you with like coming up with a jingle to spell my name.
All I got to say is I was on the Car Stuff podcast today that you do with Tom Appel, and I think I nail your introduction much better than Tom does.
He never knows how to like introduce me. And he was calling me like the editor-in-chief for a while. And I was like, sure, I'll totally take that. That's totally a title bump, but managing editor. But
Yeah. I mean, he finally got the plus side in the name. So we're moving along. It's baby steps here. Baby steps. So how the hell are you, Jill? It's been a month of you on the road. You were home, I think you told me you're home 4 days last month.
Yeah, I feel like that's about correct. and I feel like I only got to see my husband for like 2 of those days, like 4 hours of those days. Like John and I were talking, we were like, how much did we actually see each other last month? And I was like, I think we came up with like 12 hours is when we actually saw each other.
Yeah, that's the life of a journalist. So I held on the fort. Jill went and played with the ocean and the cold. Actually, I will say this: I wasn't jealous of any of your trips because you were you were rained on in San Francisco, or you went to the
followed by a rain cloud literally everywhere I went.
Right, you drove. Was it the you drove something in San Francisco that you drove through water. Basically buildable water.
Oh yeah, the Mazda CX90 drove through water, like 2 feet of water. The Hummer, I water. There was rain. It was so muddy they wouldn't let us drive off road by ourselves. The Dodge Hornet rained in North Carolina. I'm like, where else was I? Literally rained everywhere I went.
Yeah. I was, usually this time of year I get kind of jealous because it's so nasty here in Nebraska, and then I saw your stuff and I was like,
nope. Not jealous.
Nope. I'm telling you, we're actually under a blizzard warning right now. We're gonna get a blizzard tomorrow, and I don't care where you go in the United States. It seems like the weather is terrible.
Chicago is not terrible right now. I'm gonna say that for you. Let's see what I'm like pulling up my AccuWeather. Our high tomorrow is 66 degrees.
Oh, look at that.
I mean, raining. It's going to be raining. Yeah.
Gene throwing love at Jill. Gene says, "Of course you're followed by rain cloud because ain't no sunshine when you're gone."
Yeah, I got the song. Yes, but now I'm in Chicago and the rain cloud is now here. So I'm home and the rain is still here. So I'm trying to figure out how to ditch the rain cloud.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. Speaking of rain clouds coming, we should talk about the GM news, top of the bat, because that has created, oh my goodness, the controversy. You actually stepped up to the plate and wrote something on a Saturday, which I was shocked about.
I was fired up about that.
I figured you were comatose at that point. I did not expect you to even like put 2 words together, but you were fired up, and I should pull this up because you had a few. You actually discussed with me about listing an opinion.
Yeah.
Because you had a few choice words to say about this situation. So let's.
Hideous, terrible. There were other words.
Yeah. So the people don't know is that GM announced that moving forward in electric vehicles, and apparently, I saw something today that said some gas vehicles too. I don't know what the deal is, but after 2024, that they're going to shift to their built-in infotainment systems. They're going to co-develop with Google, and then they're going to remove the option to do App CarPlay and Android Auto. Right? That's kind of the gist.
Yep. So what they want to do is they want to go back in time to when you were using an in-car system. So navigation, assistant, apps, all of that crappy stuff. And they want you to not have a phone mirroring. And so you can connect your phone and you can make calls via Bluetooth. And that's about it. I'm just like, what in the Google is going on here? Because, the reason why we came up with these phone mirroring systems is to stop people from picking up their phones and futzing with them while they're driving. Because if you can send a voice to text, if you can play your podcasts through, Apple CarPlay, if you can do a lot of those things, you don't need to touch your phone. What this is this is an invitation for people to pick their phones back up. And once they pick their phones up, you know what they're going to do? They're going to play around with Facebook. They're going to play around with Instagram. They're going to do all of the things that they stopped doing. At least we hope they stopped doing, because they didn't have to touch their phones that much while they were driving with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So I am just a little bit fired up about this decision. I can't believe they would go backwards. I mean, this just better be like one flipping amazing system that like does all of the things. I've used, with Volvo, they have kind of moved to a system similar to this. And initially they weren't going to include Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And they had a system whereby you could send a text message through like voice to text through the apps or whatever. And it does not work well. It doesn't work well. So they did decide to bring Apple CarPlay and Android Auto back or into the vehicles. But I just like doing voice to text through a native system just doesn't work well. Not to mention the fact that the native system never recognizes my voice as well as this guy, SIRI. As soon as I say the name, like my watch will start talking to me. So I'm not going to do that. But that guy, I do have a dude's voice for SIRI. They can, I mean, it recognizes my voice. It understands what I'm going to say, and it does what I want it to do. Pretty much 9 times out of 10. Native car systems, not so much.
So a couple things since you're off your soapbox. This April 1st, we thought it was a joke too. Yeah. Actually, the news came out on the Friday, the March 31st. So it was not an April 1st thing.
No.
Yeah, it came out the day before. So it wasn't an April Fool's thing, which is just kind of interesting.
But you want to talk about bad timing also? And I mentioned this in my article. April is like Distracted Driving Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Like, really? Oh.
So
okay, off the soapbox.
A couple things. First of all, I have to point out that Jill's phone and her watch with Siri work exceptionally well.
I'm like, shh.
I can't tell you how many times I was editing her videos from this big launch, and Siri went off. So she had to cut and reshoot. And she's like, no, I don't want you talking to me. Stop. Yeah, so
cancel. I don't say cancel, and he'll be like, there's nothing to cancel. And I'm like, yes, there is. You're talking to me.
And then it's like, stop. Okay, edit that part out. Go back at the beginning. So it is annoying. But I said on something with, so this is interesting. Agent Carter says, I want OnStar subscription, terrible move by GM. People need to boycott these stupid decisions. I agree. There was a change that I talked about last week with the live stream with David Boyd, that they're not doing mandatory OnStar subscription, sort of. They're still having it for some EVs. So you're still going to pay about $50 a month to drive your vehicle. Plus, you're not going to be able to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Yeah, it's kind of those things. But I said something. I said, is this just GM testing the waters, like making the announcement for a future vehicle to see how much pushback there is?
What a vehicle that is coming out this summer. The first vehicle that's going to get it is a 2024 Chevy Blazer EV, which comes out this summer, and it's being built without Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capability.
Okay, kind of shoots that thought in my head.
So not too far in the future.
That's why Jill has been on hiatus. I've been writing up everything myself. All right. So is it really coming out this summer?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I have thoughts on that because the GMC Hummer EV, I think they built a total of 100 now. They built like 2 last year. So maybe I'm not so optimistic that Blazer EV will be out in large volumes.
May not be large volumes, but they're still putting a vehicle out there that doesn't have this capability.
Yeah. So I was meaning to ask you this, and now it reminds me of all these videos you've done. The Hummer EV SUT.
SUV or SUT? The truck or the SUV?
So I have a couple things for you. Do you like the idea of an SUT? that type of terminology? Does it make sense to you?
It does. It doesn't. I mean, it's just like sport activity vehicle. Okay.
So the other thing I have for you is when it didn't come clear to my video, but the video we put out, but I was curious about. So you had driven the Hummer at the press launch, and you were pretty wowed by the performance and how cool it was. And I didn't have the same vibe from you with the Hummer SUV. Is it because it's not as good as the Hummer truck, or is it because you've kind of gotten used to the Hummer truck by now and it was the same song and dance over and again?
A little bit of the latter. But the other thing is they actually allowed us to drive off-road in the truck. We, drove up some really craggy canyons and we saw some pretty scenery. We were really able to test it in a way that, I mean, nobody's going to be driving it, let's be honest, but we got to do really cool things in it. And in with the SUV, like literally it was all on-road driving. And so it was just another press drive, and it was fine. It did really good, did really well, like in driving in on-road situations. But we didn't do anything that was like, wow.
Yeah, I didn't get the wow from that event. I didn't know if it was the vehicle or was the event. So the other question for you is, I know you're a big rear seat person because every video I edit of yours, you're in the rear seats talking about seat space. So is the Hummer SUV basically the SUT with the bed cover in a way to say it? Is the seating position the same? Is everything about the same?
It is. So I think what they're saying is everything from the C pillar forward is identical in the SUV and the truck. But it's from the C pillar backwards, so the cargo area or the truck bed, that everything changes. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like the SUV is like a foot to 2 feet shorter than the truck. So, it has the potential to fit in a Ciminillo garage because of the shorter length, but I don't know about the height. Like the height could be the problem with the garage fitting situation. But no, I mean, the SUV is more maneuverable. It's got a tighter turning radius, I think they said, than a Mustang Mach-E. So, a much smaller vehicle. It drives really well. It drives smaller than the vehicle is, but it does take some time to get used to the sheer width of the vehicle. This was probably not GMC's smartest move, but the very first thing that they did when they put us in the vehicle is they put us on the streets in San Francisco and then sent us over the Golden Gate Bridge, which the lanes are like this narrow and you're up against a concrete wall. And so I was just literally like, oh God, how big is this vehicle and what am I going to run over? But once I got through my initial, trying to get through the size proportions of the vehicle, and once I got familiar with it, it's really comfortable in on-road driving. Like I could see taking that for a road trip. I could, assuming like you've got the range and the infrastructure to support you.
Right.
But it was comfortable.
So do you think that the truck will outsell the SUV, or do you think the SUV will outsell the truck? And do you think there's much volume there?
I don't think there's going to be much volume, especially not until the lower priced base versions come out like 3 years from now. Actually, I think it's only like 2 years. I think it's 2025 is when they're supposed to come out. But I think the SUV will outsell the truck because it's going to be a little bit more livable. And I don't think we're going to see them in any volume, period. But I don't think we're going to especially see them in any numbers until the less expensive trucks come out.
Yeah. All right. That's interesting. Elliott's got an interesting point I want to bring up too. These guys, our audience is still stuck on, not still stuck on, but they should be still stuck on this idea of the Android Auto CarPlay because it's a terrible idea. But Elliott points out, he just sounds like automakers want you to lease only because these subscriptions won't be an issue with a lease. If you're buying new, especially used, it's going to be a big problem. And I think used is a huge obstacle moving forward. I was talking to my chiropractor's wife before I left the office today, and we were talking about, I'm going to bring this Jill because Jill knows more about than I do, but the Dodge Barracuda, which is their Is it they don't call it the Barracuda?
You're calling it the Banshee?
The Banshee, yes.
Yeah.
She said Barracuda, and I didn't set with me. It's the Banshee, and so that is a new muscle car from Dodge. Then it's going to be
Concept car.
Concept car, but it's going to be EV only. Is the idea behind it?
The concept is EV only. Yeah.
So what I want to get to Elliott's point is, if you're buying a vehicle used, you have to pay monthly subscription to be able to use this thing. But if it's going to be on EVs only, I guess I'm still mystified by this idea of buying a used EV.
Especially now because of the battery degradation.
Yeah, it seems like that's a real. I know you can get EV batteries. You probably can get them tested. I'm sure there's a testing thing out there. I'm sure they'll be able to tell you what the degradation is like. I'm sure you'll be able to do the numbers. I get it, but if you're going to do that and then get a used EV and not get the federal tax credit, because the federal tax credit, they're applying that to used eventually in the future, aren't they? It's still new.
I think it's still new.
I think it's still so new. So then you're going to buy so what they're saying, what GM is saying is, in like Elliott's case, so in 2027, you go buy a Chevy Blazer EV that came out in 24, so it's 3 years old, so it's off the lease. So now you're buying an EV with less range, presumably, because its degradation happened, and you don't get any free trials of any of the stuff, right?
Okay. Here, I mean, this is another irksome problem. The trial for the GM whatever is going to be 8 years. So in your theory, like 3 years, the next two owners would be able to have free stuff. But that gives General Motors 8 years to figure out what they're going to charge you for these subscriptions. And it gives you 8 years to become dependent on their thing. It gives you 8 years to get used to not having your phone attached to your car. And then all of a sudden they're like, that'll be $100, $200 a month. Thanks. And then you're like, you're bricking your car essentially, like, or at least in terms of communications and infotainment, you're being bricked unless you want to ante up. And that, to me, I mean, maybe what we'll see is in 8 years, people will turn in their GM vehicles, and then, you can't give them away because people don't want to pay the subscription fees.
It just seems like, and my analogy on this, and Jill's obviously going to correct me if I'm wrong, but my analogy on this is like walking into the Verizon store or AT&T store and buying a 6 or 7 year old smartphone and then paying the protection plan to keep the smartphone from breaking or whatever, and paying warranties and paying the service. It just seems like it's the same idea over again. And I just think with electronic components, granted, right now consumer scale smartphones and TVs are cheaper than they've ever have been, or cheaper inflation wise than they have been in the 1970s. It just seems like it'd be better to buy new.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they're banking on. But then you have all of these used EV batteries, and what do you do with that? And so how do you recycle that? It's just, we're creating more problems. And I don't know. I look at this, in addition to taking 2 steps backward, into like, I mean, we're heading back to the, early aughts here with the in-car infotainment, whatever. But this is also a play for money, with subscriptions. And don't forget, this is also, like, Big Brother is going to be watching you. They are going to get all of the data of how you're driving the car, when you charge the car, what you do in your car, how you use your phone in the car. They can collect all of this information on you, because you're now having to do everything through the car rather than having your phone, which is an intermediary. And so I don't know. I think that for privacy issues, for distraction issues, for money issues, like, none of this feels good to me. None of it.
Yeah. So Agent Carter says this could hurt resale value. I think for sure.
I
think it's a resale value. Yeah, I don't know. And Brian Surley says, why would anyone buy a used EV that you have to potentially replace a $20,000 battery? Actually, it's probably more than that, depending on the battery size. Then have to pay subscription fees. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. Like, right now we're in a very flux time in automotive marketplace, and I just don't know. We have brands like Dodge, for example, going full EV with cars. I did read a story that the Durango will keep a V8, but all the muscle cars are basically going, I don't know if it's still unclear if they're going to be going away, if just Hellcat's going away or V8's going away. I'm not quite sure. The stories are read a little bit differently, but we're in a very weird place, I should say. It seems like cars are becoming TVs that you don't actually have any resale on. When they stop working, you just you go recycle them or you toss them, whatever you want to do. And that's what it seems like it turns out to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. As you mentioned, GM walked back on the OnStar subscription, but they haven't walked back on the Super Cruise subscription. And so there are things that they're willing to walk back. There are things that they're pushing forward on. And I think that another reason why this in-car infotainment system is going to become important, and again, I just don't understand why they can't do both, but because of the Ultra Cruise that they have coming out, which will be their hands-free, like more autonomous system, like even more robust than Super Cruise, it is going to be very dependent upon the in-car navigation. But I don't understand why you can't have that in-car navigation running concurrent to your Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, I don't know. Vehicle Danny says, how many OEMs addressed future used EVs to make a good topic to cover with them? I don't think they actually really talk about it. I know that the Ford Lightning, for example, there was a story, and I went to my dealer and confirmed this. The Ford Lightning actually has the worst resale value projected out of all the Ford trucks out there right now. Like they project that thing to have the worse than Super Duty, worse than F-150s, because they just project that the used EV market in 3 years is going to be bad. And this is based on lease rates. So they have a residual value. They have to calculate residual value, which is a gigantic guess by the lease companies. But they have done the residual value in F-50, and it's terrible. And so Ford is even not saying, but saying that the F-150 Lightning will not have good resale value. I mean, an automaker standpoint, they don't give a crap about who's selling used cars. They want to sell new cars. So
yeah, it's all on you, the consumer, for the resale value.
Yeah, so they don't care about you at all. I don't know. It's interesting. Speaking of automakers who are teasing stuff and not caring so much about that, we have the Toyota Tacoma, and I want to get Jill's viewpoint on this because I know I had some thoughts last week at a live stream. If you caught that, but Jill's back, and of course Jill has her thought process. But if you missed we have a teaser going out tomorrow morning. There's more information coming out tomorrow morning on the Tacoma, and I haven't seen it yet, but apparently there's more information coming out. And so we have reveal date, we have mystery number, Brazil patent office. So first of all, Toyota did this thing where they had something on their Instagram account, which is interesting. They're putting something on Instagram. So we have this, which, by the way, for those folks who are wondering, this is the old tailgate. I don't know how many comments I got saying, I think the tailgate needs to be improved, or the tailgate looks like the current generation. It's because it is. Get over it. This is the current tailgate. But as you scroll to the right, boom, we have two things going on. And I'll scroll up on the screen so you can see the other thing. The Instagram doesn't play well on the website for one reason. But we have the Brazilian patent office, which is on the signage of the building, which is just, I don't know, kind of funny to me. And then we have in the bottom right-hand corner a very pixelated silhouette of what looks like would be a future generation Tacoma. So I have two things for Jill on this one because I was thinking about this, and this I said in the videos. First of all, I believe that the Brazilian patent office on this building, and if you don't know, I don't know, was it 3-4 months ago now, this weird photo came out. It says Brazilian patent office, this is new Tacoma. They showed it off. And I think that, frankly, from my standpoint, I think Toyota is just making a joke about this. That's how I took it. I took it as a laughter, like a joke, because it's like, come on, that's, Brazilian patent office leaks the details on the new Tacoma. They don't even sell the Tacoma down there. They sell the Hilux. Like, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. And then the second piece of that is the mysterious Tacoma. And I just wanted to get Jill's thoughts because she was not around last week.
Well, so I mean, that could be part of the joke because in the story that I feel like I wrote it. If I didn't write it, I edited the heck out of it. But
rewrote it.
in that story, they showed pictures again, of a truck that looked a lot like the Toyota Tundra. And it looked a lot like a truck that they've already revealed, which was the EV version of the Tacoma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull it up right now. See, it's on January 20. You wrote it, January 25th, 2023, and there. This is the EV
Yeah.
Tacoma. Well, this is, I mean, basically Toyota brought these vehicles out to tease people
Mhm.
because this is what they're doing these days. Toyota.
Concepts, what could be coming.
Yeah, and so they have an EV FJ Cruiser, they have an EV Tacoma, and so then you look it down, and I don't know if we have. Oh, here it is. This is the Brazilian Patent Office filings, which is just kind of it's to me this is obviously fake, but that's to me.
But that looks remarkably like the EV truck up.
Yeah, it does. And so if
And the
you're listening to
thing.
the live stream, listen on the podcast, basically it's the EV Tacoma in what I consider some really terrible black and white line drawing
Yeah.
images. It looks like the same thing. And so I don't know. I think somebody was playing a joke because there's so much about that story that didn't make sense to me. Why would you file the patent in Brazil? That doesn't make sense to me. And didn't you say, wasn't it in Portuguese too?
It
Wasn't
was.
it?
I like tried to look and I'm like, I don't speak Portuguese.
Yeah, it's just the most random thing, and so I don't know. It's a very interesting thing they're doing on. So again, tomorrow morning, check it out. We should have more details of the Tacoma
Well,
and
and so first off, the teaser story, the first that you showed, I want to bring up the fact that the license plate says 040423.
right, and so people have
That would
said
be
that
tomorrow.
that's a date, and
There's going to be a date.
Jill has loved the part of the story, and I have ignored it sometimes. But Jill loves the fact it's on a Taco Tuesday, and it's also 4x4 day. Jill loves Taco Tuesday part of that.
I like tacos. Maybe I will make them tomorrow.
So yeah, so apparently tomorrow, but that it just depends how you read that license plate.
We know something is coming tomorrow.
Yeah, we know.
But
something.
the argument is, what is that thing that's coming?
Right. So a lot of people think it's the full reveal of the Tacoma.
They do.
And the challenge I have with that is, if you remember the Tundra reveals, the Tundra teasers, we had like, is it fair to
100
say
of them.
9, 10?
We
right?
had a lot of them over several months.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, teaser reveal. It was like, I feel like it was over 4 or 5 months that we got teasers. They drew it out.
Right. They drew it out so much, people were pissed.
Yeah.
Like I remember Toyota PR calling me. I was talking to the guy on the phone, and I'm like, "You can keep feeding them to me. That's fine." But I said, "People are getting pissed." I think it actually, I kind of think it actually dogged the early Tundra sales because the expectation was built up some degree, and the expectation didn't quite meet reality, and people were just, they were upset about that, very much so. So
yeah. So I mean, I don't know what tomorrow will bring. But there's definitely a lot of speculation out there. But I think that it can't possibly be the full reveal because of the fact that the way Tundra did it. It's just they've had 2 teasers on Instagram, and then I just that's not enough. It's not enough. Toyota likes to draw stuff out over more time.
So moving on to something that does exist, the Mazda CX90, and I'm not going to get the name right, but it brings up an interesting there was a comment on the YouTube channel on this, and I wanted your viewpoint on this. So the CX90 came out, and for those who don't know, my sense of it is this. It's just a bit bigger and longer and wider than the CX9 with new interior materials and a plug-in hybrid.
Everything. It's built on a new architecture. It has a new engine. It has an inline 6-cylinder engine. Definitely has much more upgraded materials throughout. And I would say that the highest trim and I don't have the trims right in front of me at the moment, but it's like
Signature, I think
Premium Plus or something like that. That
yeah.
they don't have like previously it was the Signature trim was the top trim, and now it's like Premium Plus or something like that. And I feel like that trim is nicer than what the Signature trim was.
Okay, so the question came up from, again, I can't say his name, I can't pronounce it, but there's some comparisons going on. People were asking questions in the comments. How does the CX90 compare to the VW Atlas? First of all, which I think is a little fascinating because I've always treated, and this is me being me, but I've always thought that VWs are very simplistic in their overall interior materials and layout. And
Mhm.
I thought that Mazda drives better and has better materials than the VW Atlas.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have the same thought with the Honda Pilot that I do the VW Atlas in that I have a Honda HRV outside right now, which hopefully it survives a snowstorm. but but I always found Honda vehicles are pretty simplistic, a little boring at times with some of their vehicles.
Yeah.
And so I think the CX90 kills there, but the Grand Highlander, I've been getting a lot of questions. The Grand Highlander, like, and we haven't been able to drive them yet. But the Grand Highlander, is that the same? It's a pretty good competitive CX90, right? Both 3-row, both wide, tall.
I think Grand Highlander is bigger than Pilot and Atlas. So let's start there. I
Okay,
think in terms of size, Pilot and Atlas are probably more similar. But the comparison that I was making for CX90 in my head was that I was comparing it more to the Acura MDX and the Infiniti QX60 because those are all both like near luxury brands where Toyota, Honda, and Volkswagen, they're not luxury brands at all. And even in your top tier trims, they will not compare to what Mazda is offering in the CX90.
okay,
I
and
would
then
put Mazda more in the near luxury category because they're not quite luxury, but they're not mainstream. They're not like the base, like everyday car.
right, he follows up with the Lexus TX, which to me makes more sense with the Mazda, but we don't know details of the TX. We don't know price
Yeah.
point. We don't know that stuff. I mean, I don't know. This is an interesting comparison. I think we'll do a lot of these comparisons, but I think that the Honda Pilot's got really good reliability. It's okay interior. People love them for the reliability. VW Atlas, I don't know that I can make a big case for the VW Atlas. I haven't been in a version yet that I've been like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's better.
I like the way the Volkswagen
Okay.
Atlas drives, but the turbo engine and that is a little bit laggy. And I like the Mazda better.
Yeah.
The inline 6-cylinder engine, the Turbo Plus, like the top tier turbo trim, it's pretty freaking awesome.
So the thing you got to understand with auto journalists is that we drive all these vehicles, and I can tell you, I get almost to a fact that Mazda for journalists is like the holy grail of things you ignore. Like, I can't tell you how many journalists I know that own Miatas. I can't tell you how many journalists I know that love Mazdas. I mean, we
Yeah,
all, it seems like as journalists, I had a CX5. We went bought a CX5. My wife freaking
yeah.
loved it. Like, if there's one brand that people don't think of very often, it's Mazda. And it's a shame because their
They
vehicles
should.
are really good. And so looking at your list, I think the Pilot's fine, VW Atlas is fine, Lexus TX and Grand Highlander. Lexus TX would just be a fancier version of Grand Highlander, probably. You need to look at Mazda. Definitely look at Mazda.
And somebody was just like in my social media comments, people were saying, I don't understand how this, measures up to, a big 3-row SUV. It's too small. And I'm like, well, it's not supposed to. Like the Chevrolet Tahoe, GMC Yukon, Cadillac Escalade, that is not the competitive set. That is not what this vehicle is. This vehicle is a 3-row SUV that's more on the midsize scale of things. It's a smaller third row. Now, is there leg room in the third row? For me, there
Right.
is leg room.
Yeah, your video is actually catching fire right now at the moment. You sat in the center seat of the CX90, and you are 5 foot tall. You're average size of a 10, 12-year-old, and you couldn't fit 3 across without being tight back there.
Yeah, it would be very tight. And my shoulders, I haven't never measured my shoulders. Sorry, a little bit off kilter today. Haven't measured my shoulders lately. But no, maybe a foot and a half. I don't know, but that wait here.
Oh, here we go. Hey, Dave's here. Dave's here from Alternate Nation. You give him a shout out.
Like let's see. And I'm not going to be doing this evenly because again I'm off kilter. So what? About 14 inches, 14 and a half inches. That's about how wide my shoulders are. I'm like trying
Not
to
even
be.
a foot and a half.
I'm narrow. I'm wee. I'm little. So probably about 15 inches is what we're looking at for my shoulders because I was kind of like measuring to here. So yeah, I mean, like that's so. But the great thing about the CX90 is that they have a 3-person configuration for that third row, and then they have a 2-person configuration for that third row. 2-person configuration gets 2 thumbs up. The 3-person configuration is in case of emergency only. I think.
There you go. I got to bring this up just because I like his YouTube channel name. I'm not going to do much with a comment, but Bunny Fartloads is commenting on our YouTube channel, and just, I mean, the creativity to come up with that name is just, just, and Agent Carter wants to respond, Bunny Fats. So nobody, it's like, you got a long name when you do that. And GM wants to know why you're not wearing shoulder pads and making your shoulders even wider. Remember the shoulder pads were a thing in the 80s? Oh, big thing. Yeah. Jill was like, I was 4 in 1980, so I don't remember any of that stuff. Ab, we're going to call him Ab, comes back and he says, Grand Highlander Platinum with Hybrid Max or Kia Telluride SX. Here's my thing with the Grand Highlander. We haven't driven it yet.
No.
Nobody's driven it. Like, that's my frustration with this stuff. Like, we don't know how it drives, so it's hard to say. The Kia Telluride's been fantastic.
Yeah, and I will say also, Grand Highlander is bigger than the Telluride SX. Yeah. So like the Highlander is going to be similarly sized to the Kia, but the Grand Highlander is bigger. Like I think people aren't understanding that it's bigger.
Yeah, the Highlander is more your competitor to the Kia Telluride. Yeah. So Grand Highlander is long. As Dave says, it's long. Right.
Unlike my shoulders, which are not.
We always had the most interesting facts come out of these podcast live streams.
15 inches. Yeah.
Jill's shoulders are narrow. She's a narrow person in stature, not in the way she views the market.
Not minded. Not narrow-minded.
Not minded. No, not Maryland. So there's another thing that we should talk about. We should talk about trucks because we haven't talked about trucks at all, and that's kind of a shame for this channel. But
we talked about Tacoma. That's a truck.
Oh, we did talk about Tacoma. I'm sorry. I'm remiss in that. So I was going to talk about the fact that we did some mid-sized discussion on Tom and yours car stuff podcast. Yep. So I had said in there about there's a Ford Ranger coming out, a Ranger Raptor coming out. We pretty much know at this point. But we discussed how in this fall there'll be a Tacoma TRD Pro, there will be a Ford Ranger Raptor, there'll be a Chevy Colorado ZR2, and a GMC Canyon AT4X. And so who you got, Jill? That's going to be a comparison. I can see the cover photo now of Car and Driver, like in the desert somewhere, right? So, I mean, isn't that? I said that in the live stream, your podcast, and you did not have the podcast segment's short, right?
Yeah.
So Jill can't really, do a whole thing. But Jill, I served the ball to you metaphorically. Here we go. I'm gonna give you the ball. I'm going to you. So what do you think? The ball's in your court. Am I right or am I wrong in that this growth of this growth of this off-road mid-sized truck is going to be very competitive?
I think you're right. I think it. What? I think you're right. Mark the time and the date, April 3rd. 7:39 p.m. No, I think you're right. I think it's going to be very competitive. I will be very curious to see what powertrains Tacoma is going to offer and what powertrains the Ranger, potentially Ranger Raptor, is going to offer. And I think that is going to make a big difference in how competitive they are, because you've got the Colorado and Canyon, which just have the 4-cylinder turbo engine with the extra boost tuning. Are you okay there?
I dropped my. I playing that thing in my hands and I dropped it. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I think I'm going to be very, very curious to see what they come up with in terms of powertrains and amenities. And I mean, if General Motors is going to do that, do away with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, I mean, I don't know, that could be a competitive edge right there for Ford and Toyota.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as that plays out. The marketplace is growing in that segment. I agree with Todd about how many of these off-road trucks will actually go off-road.
Not
I don't
many.
think very many, but I think that the size and the cool look of it will get people's attention because the off-road trucks just look cooler. They just do. There's no doubt about that. And so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this fall. I can't wait to get behind the wheel of these vehicles. It's going to be tough because they are going to be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, which is a lot for a midsize truck. And
But because of the weight, you could buy one.
yeah, that's something that Jill and I talked about. So it's over was it 6,000 pounds, 8,000 pounds? I always forget the number. I think it's 6. It's over the tax credit the tax write-off limit. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, there's a lot going on in that segment. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to get back to a few more comments because we have some things. Caesar wants to know, why is a hybrid diesel not a thing? It actually is a thing, Caesar. Cesar would be maybe a better way to say it, Cesar.
Cesar.
It's in Europe, and what they've been doing that in Europe, and what they found is they found lots of problems. It's very heavy, it's very expensive, and hybrids do really well on low speeds, and diesels do really well on low speeds. So they're having some difficulty trying to make sense of it. People, I think, I did a video on this, and people didn't watch it for whatever reason because it's like, "Hello, watch my videos." But I keep getting.
We'll have to link to it in the comments or
I'll
something.
put a link to it in the comments. People don't seem to watch the video, but it's like I talked to an expert about this, and there's just not I think the idea on paper for some people makes sense, but in reality, it doesn't work. It just doesn't. And so that's part of the issue there. Dave once says power trains, like multiple, is very optimistic. And the way the marketplace is going with midsize trucks, you're going to get like one option. That's one option only. I'm going to go back to this for Ryan because Jill.
I think Tacoma is going to have 2 options at least.
Yeah, we'll see. So Jill is a little bit better at SUVs than I am, but Ryan Bittner says we are struggling with which crossover to buy now: RAV4 Limited Hybrid, Venza Limited, or CRV Hybrid Sport Touring. I like Toyota's better, but I like the price and size of CRV better. So RAV4 and Venza are different vehicles. The Venza's longer.
Hybrid only.
Yeah, hybrid only, but do you recall? I mean, I know it's longer than the RAV4.
It's a little bit more sleek. The one thing that I would say to Ryan is go sit in the passenger seat of the RAV4.
Oh yes. Oh, my head
in the front passenger seat. Go sit in that, and that will probably help you make that decision right there.
Yeah. So the passenger seat, they don't actually have what's the deal? They don't have an adjustable passenger seat, and so we got into it in Texas, and I rung my bell.
Oh my God, he like literally slammed his head against the and I mean it's something that you would get used to after a while, but it was a very like awkward bend for Tim. Me, not a problem. Again,
yes,
15-inch wide shoulders, not very tall.
Yes, yeah, definitely check it out. I was shocked.
I haven't driven the current iteration of the CRV hybrid, but I really liked the last generation CRV hybrid, and I liked it better than the RAV4. I thought it was quieter. I thought the interior amenities were a little bit nicer, and the finishing touches and the fit and finish I thought was a little bit better, and I got some better fuel economy in that version as well. But I love the Venza. So the Venza is an interesting vehicle from Toyota because it's more of a Lexus than a Toyota because it looks more high end. It has more features and amenities. It drives a little bit more sleek. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's smoother. It's a nicer vehicle. So I would say really the choice is between the Venza and the CRV. And then it's going to come down to price and personal preference.
Yeah, I agree. So I put the video link to the diesel hybrid video I did with the diesel technology forum. that let me double check this again. That 7.6 thousand views in that video, 7,600 views. So y'all didn't watch it, but I did the video on it, and it's 27 minutes long. It's an expert in the field. We talked about it extensively. This guy is deeply involved in these technology, and he is the spokesperson. And for a lot of these EPA meetings and things, he's there representing the diesel truck owners. So you guys didn't watch it, so sorry. Keep asking questions. Justin Kelly.
And we keep posting the link, and then maybe you'll watch it.
Yeah, so Justin Kelly's on, and he is. I keep messing his channel name. It's Cars Made Simple. Cars Answered. Car Questions Answered. 1 and 2. Gosh darn it, Justin. I messed up 2 weeks in a row. Slapped my hand. I'm a bad person. But bring up Justin because he's a really nice guy. And he says, almost think the GM trucks might have a price advantage, at least a ZR2 versus the others. That's good. That's a very interesting point. That's something that I don't think journalists always point out is the pricing. We tend to get kind of blown away by the features or the powertrain, and we ignore the pricing, which happens all the time because of the plug-in hybrid situation. I did that video on the Mitsubishi Outlander, and if you do the numbers, it's 10 grand more for the Outlander plug-in hybrid. It saves you $400 a year in fuel costs, according to the EPA. And could be more, could be less, depending on Jill or where you live. And basically, the math works out to be about 25 years until you get your return on investment for $10,000. So yeah, it just sounds good on paper, but when you start looking at it,
so you have to look at why you're buying it. If you're buying it for your return on your investment, or if you're buying it to be a good human.
Sure, I just think it's more complicated. I think frankly, for me, I think you go full EV at that point.
No, because you like, I couldn't drive to my parents' house in a full EV in most cases.
You could if you stopped for like 2 hours or so.
Maybe I'll make it 167 miles to the closest charging station, but maybe not.
So this is my question for you, and I don't think this gets reported enough on, is that the real world mileage of these EVs is not matching up.
Well, but I mean, the real world mileage of regular cars, and you've made this point millions of times, doesn't match up either. And you've said it again multiple times that you find it ironic that people are willing to trust the mileage on an EV, yet they get, up in arms, with the gasoline vehicles. And
it's strange, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
It's odd. And so I don't know why that's not more of a thing. Like, why do people not question that?
Well, let me tell you, Tim, they don't question it on a gasoline vehicle because there is a gas station on every corner. You can, I don't know that there's any place in the United States that you could go like 20 miles and not find a gas station. Like, I feel like even in rural areas, like within 20 miles, can you literally go and they're like, how many miles? What's the biggest difference you found? Distance?
Between me and Cheyenne, there's no gas stations.
There's no gas stations on the highway, but like if you went off the highway, like 5 miles.
From here to Kimball, which is about 45 minutes away, there's no gas stations.
So 45 minutes, that's 40 miles.
Well, I mean, 37 for you, but who's counting?
But no, so I just think that there is range anxiety, and that's why people are more focused on EV range rather than gasoline range, because they know when they get low or they have a problem, I'll just sneeze and there's a gas station. But you can't just, there'll be an EV charging station at the next exit. No, there will not. And it may not be at the next one or 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 the next one.
Well, the other thing with that too is even if there's an EV charging station, doesn't mean there's a slot open. I mean, that's the other part of it.
You have to wait for X amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, because the gasoline you fill up in 10 minutes, you're on the way. With an EV, you fill up for a while, as you learned. And somebody commented in my video, one of the videos said, well, Tim, just take a cooler with you and sit up there and just enjoy your cooled beverage while you're charging it. I'm like, no, no, I don't want to do that. Dave has got the inside in the Ranger. He says Ranger will have 3 motors, 2.3 liter, 2.7, and Raptor 3.0, which is probably accurate. He's been very on top of the Ford game lately. So it could be 3 motors. They offer all 3 currently. Be interested to see what happens. Ryan came back and said, I have. That's why I'm looking at CRV and Venza now, is because the RAV4 seats are horrible for road trips. And again, I was shocked about that. I was really surprised. I have a video coming out, I don't know, sometime soon. The Range Rover I have outside in the driveway, it's so difficult to get in this damn thing. And somebody commented on my Facebook post. I took pictures of it because it was cool. It's sunning at night, and they rented one. They couldn't get in out of the damn thing. And I'm like, I just want basic stuff. I want to be able to get in and out of my vehicle. I know it's a shocking thing.
I will say I did not have that problem.
Well, yes, you and all, yeah. Let's see. 2% of you guys love the channel. Miss the occasional Jill rant though. Jason says. Oh, and he gave a super chat, Jill, for $1.99. Does that get you fired up about doing a Jill rant?
I think I just did a Jill rant on the Google
Actually, yeah.
Android Auto.
25 minutes of this live stream, you probably saw the Jill rant.
Yeah, that was a pretty big Jill rant right there.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
You know what I'm going to get fired up about now? Here you go. I'll give you another Jill rant. Wireless charging. Why can't we get this right?
Yeah, you have done.
I'm on a tear with wireless charging.
Yeah.
I am so hacked off. Like, why are you including a feature that fails? Like, before the vehicle even goes out into, whatever, the ether, it fails. Like, you have a feature that doesn't work. Stop including it on your vehicles.
So there's two things in this, because I've seen a lot of Jill's videos. Just two things. First of all, the wireless charger, sometimes the phone will shift on it and it won't keep the charge. The second problem is the phone overheats. Right. Yeah. I mean, those are those the two critical.
Those are the two primary problems that I have with wireless chargers.
So if you grab your phone and put in a charger, it literally sometimes will turn itself off because it overheats, or it's so hot that it touch, you have to let it sit for a little while. And then, for example, the Tundra, the 22 Tundra I had, I would slide all the time. Like we basically gave up on it because it was just it was useless. So yeah, I don't know. It's GM does it well. Like you and I talked about, GM does it well. Although
GM is the only one I found that does it well.
And it's so weird because GM does a lot of stuff that's not well.
They really do. They really do. But I had a Cadillac CT4, which is a CAR, a couple weeks ago, and I drove it to Indianapolis. And it had one of those charging. What it didn't have, it didn't secure my phone into the charging pad, but my phone didn't wobble around. It had like a bit of a rubber mat, so it kept my phone in place. I had my phone in the wireless charging for 3 hours while I drove down to Indianapolis. Had it connected to Apple CarPlay. Was using Waze through Apple CarPlay. When I got to my parents' house, I had my case on. Pulled it out of the wireless charger when I got to my parents' house, and it was cold. It was cold and charged. It charged all the way up, and it was cold.
Yeah.
Didn't stop working. Didn't come out of the charge plate. Didn't overheat. Didn't malfunction. Didn't shut down the system.
Yeah,
it's not that hard, or maybe it is hard, but
maybe it is. Yeah,
don't include it if it doesn't work.
That 22 Tundra, when I drove back from Houston, my phone died while I was driving because I was listening to a podcast and it was on the charger, but it still died.
Yeah, and
it was so somebody commented. They said, Tim, I watched all your videos on Tundra, and you were so excited to drive back to Houston. Then towards the end, you hated it, and it's unfair because it's such a great truck. And this guy was owner, and he has no problems with it. And I'm like, I understand that, but man, I had a 2013 Tundra that we really liked. So I'm not a Tundra hater. I had that. We liked it. And I had problem after problem after problem with that truck that wasn't related to first year problems either. It just was overall design problems. It just didn't the seat cracking, all that kind of stuff going on. And so, yeah, I don't know. I do want to buy another Toyota vehicle. I definitely am looking at Tacoma when it comes out because it's the newest thing to have. And I just want it to be better. Like I actually am really concerned about the Tundra, the Tacoma I'm going to buy. I'll probably, if the weight's good, I'll probably buy midsize because you're the midsize. But I'm concerned because I need to shop better. I need to buy a higher trim level. I need to buy something that, and it's sad to say, but I think I have to buy the higher trim level to get the vehicle I actually like, because the lower trim levels, they have definitely screwed it up. And if you watch my friend Mark Tundra 34, he's been talking about this quite a bit. He went and bought a TRD Pro and he had to take it back and sell it because it got too expensive. The payment didn't make sense, and so
Yeah.
he had to buy it. He tried to buy an SR5, and he was just like, "Man, the features aren't there. It's incredible that change." I would get more thing from you, Jill. So Hardy, whatever it says. I can't. Some of these screen names. I'm sorry. I'm going to butcher them up. But he says, "What about the Mazda CX50 Turbo versus CRV Sport Touring? On paper, CX50 offers more tech and equipment, but I was wondering about the CX50's long-term reliability and resale value."
So, I mean, long-term reliability on the CX50 is going to be a little bit tough just because it's a completely new vehicle from Mazda. And I think it was all new for 2022. But Mazda in general has pretty good reliability ratings. I think I'm again not looking at the numbers in front of me at the moment, but I feel like they are not at the bottom of the heap in terms of reliability numbers. I think they score pretty high. I really like the CX50. I like the CX50 better than the CX5, which is the best-selling vehicle for Mazda.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. Lots of comments on the Apple CarPlay and wireless chargers. A lot of people agree with you. They can't. It doesn't come out of their pocket. They don't even do the wireless charging because it doesn't make sense. And
yeah, I end up putting my phone in the cup holder because if you put it on the charger and you're not charging or you don't want to charge, it still overheats your phone.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You put it in the cup holder, which takes up one of the cup holders, and don't do it. Just put a ledge for your phone. Sorry. Okay. Going off on it again. So it makes me very angry.
We got 3 minutes left in this podcast, 4 minutes left in this live stream podcast combo. Dwayne wants to know, and we've got to bring this up. Are you going to get ready for that golfing, Jill?
Okay. By the way, I have made my first step towards getting ready for golfing.
So she has a pair of golf shoes.
I went shopping.
She went shopping. So let me back up. For those who don't know, our friend Todd made the challenge to both of us that at 100,000 subscribers, I should run a 5K with Jill, and Jill should play 9 holes of golf with me because those are both our interests that are kind of swapped. And so I am in. Let me check my phone. I think I do off the top of my head. I'm in week 4 of a College to 5K. I did some intervals before that for 2 weeks, so I'm actually kind of in week 7 of doing the interval training. I will tell you that my butt is tired and my legs are tired, and it's ramping up. Now the intervals, I think next week. Oh, what is next week? Next week's like I was looking at this in fear a little bit because I was like, oh no, next week is week 5, day 1, which means it's run for 5 minutes, walk for 3, run for 5, walk for 3, run for 4, walk for 3. So I was doing intervals on Sunday. On Sunday, and this is yesterday. Yeah. So I will tell you that the intervals the other day were like run for 3, walk for 2, run for 4, walk for 2. And then typically at the end of this workout, I've been like, oh, I'm going to cruise a little bit. And it goes, hey, run for 4. And I'm like, son of a freaking thing. And so then I did it. But yeah, it was not cool. And I'm not running outside because aforementioned temperatures have been ridiculously terrible. And I probably won't run outside for a while until things get better. So I am running, and Jill has golf shoes.
I have golf shoes.
I teased her husband the other day for a swing video, and he was like, well, if she's freaking home for more than 10 minutes, it'd be great. We can do a video. We can do something.
I know. So I'm home for April. So I will try and make something happen in here. I told him, I'm like, we should go to Topgolf. And he was like, you need to go to a driving range. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but you need golf clubs first. And I'm like, okay. So why not Topgolf to play around and then go get me golf clubs and then take me to a driving range? I don't know. He wants to like jump in like head first. My husband is an avid golfer. Like I would say he likes golfing more than Tim does. How we got married, I don't know. I do call myself a golf widow during the summer. He has like permanent tee times on Saturday and Sunday during the summer, and he will usually golf at least once a week during the week in addition. Yeah. So we used to have big arguments about his golfing when we first got married.
Yeah, Topgolf is fun. I think Topgolf would be great introduction because there's music, there's wings, there's beer, there's
beer. Come on.
I mean, and then they have the golf clubs there. The golf clubs are there on site,
Exactly.
And so it's safe environment, and you hit the ball, and who cares? You're scoring differently. I think the Topgolf idea is a fantastic idea, and driving range can be boring. I use it. I work on my swing changes. It's not as much fun as being on the course, and I don't know. It's just I think Topgolf. You should girl trip.
Yeah, well, so we are going to my parents' house this weekend for Easter, and they literally live right next to a Topgolf. So I am going to try and talk my family into a family outing to go to Topgolf, because we can even take my dad. I mean, he can't golf anymore, but he can like sit there and be a part of the social scene. So
exactly.
But so I'm going to try and push for an outing at Topgolf at some point while we are there.
Yeah, and Todd gets you. He says, no Cracker Barrel, but Topgolf, that's all good.
But no Cracker Barrel. No, I still want the cheesy potatoes and the fried apples. I'm just putting that out there.
Weirdo. All right, so
the cheesy potatoes are awesome.
This podcast live stream is not sponsored by Topgolf or the Cracker Barrel. So there's your FYI. I think that's all we got for you tonight. Make sure you check us out on the web at pickuptrucktalk.com. 3 words, blah, blah, as easy as I can say them. Pickuptrucktalk.com. Although I saw a press release today that had pickup as hyphenated, and I about lost it. I just about lost it.
Tim Rant.
I held off. I about lost it. Comments. Put comments down below. We always want to answer your comments. We try to answer as many as we can, and I do listen to criticism. I do take it, and then I go punch a wall. But no, I do listen to criticism quite a bit. So make sure you put
all those pictures on the wall. That's what that covers up. Is this.
Exactly. Tim at pickuptrucktalk.com. You want to email me. Lots of people email me different questions. I do respond. Some days I'm later getting response. Some days it takes me a couple days. Some days I do get back, but that's what happens. As always, thanks for watching. We will see you down the road.